Okay, I'm gonna pray before we invite him up to share with us, and then after, so he's gonna share about the ministry in Taiwan, and then afterwards, we're gonna have time of Q&A as well. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord God, we are just grateful to have Chris Odell sharing with us this afternoon. Thank you, Lord, also for all the brothers and sisters that are here that are just interested in hearing about the things that you're doing in Taiwan, how we can partner with the ministries over there, as well as some of the takeaways that we can have in terms of ministering to the people in our communities as well. So, Lord, we do want to commit this afternoon to you and praise all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, Chris, I just want to welcome you to join us today.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here. I actually, until about 10 minutes ago, I thought I was doing this presentation in Mandarin. So, 如果需要翻译的话，你可以跟我讲。But I've been in the U.S. here for a couple of months now, and my wife and kids are in Minnesota, where my family is originally from. And we have been going to different places around California. I'll go to New York. I went to New York. I'll go to Florida, and getting to share about what God's doing in Taiwan and around the world is so encouraging. And already I'm very impressed and touched by so many of you who would give up your Saturday afternoon to come and listen to me, especially because we advertised it as a 2-hour-long event. That's a long time for one person to talk. I hope that you don't fall asleep. But if you do, that's okay. I understand, because I might fall asleep too if someone was talking to me for 2 hours. But I'll try to talk for less than 2 hours, share a little bit about what we've been experiencing recently, some of the highs and the lows and the strategies of things that are happening in Taiwan, the work that God is doing. And then I'd just love to spend time answering any questions you have. And then also, perhaps if we can at the end, we can also pray together a bit for the work that God is doing in Taiwan. I think one thing that's really special that I just sense in this room, I don't know all of your stories very well or the experiences you've had, but some of us were having lunch earlier today, and it was just impressed on my heart that at SVAC, we are a community of people that have a heart to share God's message with the world. And we want to do that in many different ways, helping out with the food and the food distribution, or doing different outreaches. I was just talking, you were telling me about the table tennis tournaments that we're doing, everything. It's so creative. It's so fun and encouraging and inspiring to me. And the message that I get to share often is our ministry is called Aroma, but it's not just in Taiwan. There are some people, Aroma. We are all the aroma of Christ. You are the aroma of Christ when you're sharing God's message, when you're at your job, with your family, with your friends, in school. Those are all places where God has positioned you specifically, called you like Queen Esther for such a time as this, put you in a place like Daniel when he served the king. You might feel like you're in a place that seems discouraging sometimes. You might feel like we're losing the battle sometimes in our jobs or in our communities. But I can tell you that at the time that it is the darkest, that's when the light shines the brightest. And it's so encouraging to me to come into a room like this with people like you who love God and want to participate in that work around the world. So I'm also someone who really likes to have interaction. I hope that we can have this be an interactive time together today. It might be a little bit more talking than I would like, but I'm happy to have you interrupt me with things. One thing I will ask you to do right now, though, is to turn to that person next to you, maybe to the right, maybe to the left, and just remind them, hey, you are the aroma. It's nice to be here with you today. It's nice to be here with you today because you are the aroma. Hopefully we all showered today, because that's a different kind of aroma. We don't want to have that kind of smell here, but is it okay if I'm down off the stage here? That's good? Okay, great. Yeah. I'm curious, how many of you have heard about Aroma Ministries in Taiwan before? Wow, okay. Wow, that's amazing. You guys are awesome. I was just talking to one other person who was saying, I said, oh, I got here in May, and she said, I know, I read all your newsletters. And I was like, oh, thank you. There's at least one person besides my mom who reads all those newsletters. Thank you very much. You read them too? Okay, thank you. That's good. But we, some of you who have been following the ministry of Aroma over the years, we started a coffee shop and a church. I want to share a little bit about how that got started, because I realized I've not shared some of the details of that ministry very much over the last few years. And something special about that for me is that I think around the world, not just in Taiwan, not just in other places, but around the world, and I sense it here a bit, like God is starting to do some new things. It's like we're entering into a new season together. And I'd love to encourage you, inspire you with a story of how something new got started. And it was something that I don't think we knew exactly what we were doing. We still don't really know exactly what we're doing. But we had a time where we really could see God working in that place that we were in. I want to encourage you with that today, and then share a little bit about how over the years it's grown and evolved, and the challenge and the opportunity that we face today in Taiwan. That I think is a massive opportunity to get more and more people to, as we say, smell, become, and spread the aroma of Christ. That's really why we're here, really why we want to get involved in what God is doing around the world. So you probably know, you've heard before maybe that my wife and I moved to Taiwan in 2008. That means that we've been there for about 16 years. But when we first got started, we didn't have like a perfect plan in place, or really didn't know much about what we were going to do in terms of our outreach ministry in Ximending in Taipei. But we knew that we wanted to be in that space, and we started praying and started asking God for an opportunity to start reaching out to our friends who would come to that area. Has anyone ever been to Ximen before? Cool, a few of us. Ximen is like, I tell my friends sometimes that are in the States, going to Ximending is like going to the state fair. It's just like Renshan, Renhai. Everywhere you go, there's just people. Ximending, there's just people everywhere there. And you come up out of the subway station exit, you just see like a crowd of people. They're all young youth. They're all, maybe high school or college, something like that. And that's the place where we felt like God called us to go, to be a part of what he was doing there, reaching out to people. And so we're praying, and we lived at that time between two movie theaters on Movie Street, Omejia, there in Ximending. And we lived right there in between those two movie theaters, and we were praying, and the word that we got after we were praying for a while, this is like March 2009, we got this word aroma. And we don't really know, what are we supposed to do with that word aroma, What should we do with this? What should we do? And finally we decided, hey, some of our friends, they're interested in practicing their English. They're interested in learning English and using that as a way to maybe improve their lives or meet more friends or have an opportunity in the future. So we decided we were going to start an English outreach called Aroma Coffee House. And you might think Aroma Coffee House is something very fancy, very cool, and so professional. But I can tell you that it definitely was not. When we first started, our coffee house was one bottle of Coca-Cola, 1 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, 1 pot of black coffee, and do you know the Swiss Miss hot cocoa? You take a spoon, you put it in the hot water, stir it, and you have really bad tasting hot cocoa. Okay, those were our 3 drinks on the menu, okay? We had hot cocoa, Coca-Cola, and coffee, okay? And these are our 3 drinks that you could choose from. And in the summer, they were probably, 2 of them were still hot. We didn't really make like iced hot cocoa or anything fancy like that. So that's all we had. And then our friend who had, he owned a clothing shop that sold like gangster style clothing. So there's like gangster rap music playing. And to get up to our apartment, you have to walk through his shop. And so all of our friends who wanted to come to this thing that we were going to do called Coffee House, they had to walk through the gangster clothing shop and up the stairs. And then we decided, hey, we need to make some new friends. So how do we do that? And we grabbed signs and we wrote free English on the sign. And we walked outside onto the street where the movie theater is, where everyone's waiting in line. And we just yelled, free English, free English. English! And we just walked around. We said free English like crazy people. You know what? Some people responded to that. They came in and they wanted to practice their English. So they ordered a drink from us and they sat down at a table. We didn't really have an organized structure. There were a few discussion questions on the table. And that was our first outreach. I liked this beginning because we prayed. We felt like God gave us something to try. And we did it. We tried it. But we kept improving as we went along. We kept trying, hey, there's different ways that we can try to improve this ministry. And that coffee house that started in 2009 is still going today. It's called Coffee Talk now. It's on Friday nights from 8 to 9:30 p.m. And the drinks taste a little bit better. That's good. We started it out, and then that grew into our coffee shop. And then we continued on with the coffee shop and grew this ministry on Friday nights. It's still happening today. But what we still have to continue to do always is to keep trying new ideas, keep iterating, keep seeing how we can improve. Because there's many things that we can learn and many things that we're still learning. So the drinks improved. One thing is that the way that we planned the event that evening, the outline and the way that we create the lessons so that the English is actually improving when we're with our friends, all of those things were part of the iteration and learning process. So today I want to encourage you. I think maybe there's at least two kinds of people that are here today. One of you are the kind of people that something is already on your heart, that God is maybe inspiring you or encouraging you or bringing something to mind, some ministry or outreach that you might be thinking to be a part of or wanting to start someday. I want to encourage you because you might not have all the answers. And it's easy today with social media and the internet to think everyone is making coffee as professional as Starbucks. But not everyone has to start that level. You can start with some black coffee and some Swiss Miss hot cocoa, and you can put that in. My point is not that everyone needs to start a coffee shop. My point is that today you might have something on your mind, on your heart, and don't let the idea it needs to be perfect prevent you from starting. We can start something. And so I love hearing about the different ministries that we're doing here at SVAC and the heart that we all have to serve in those ministries. I want to encourage you today to start serving, to try something out. And I believe that God will open up a door of opportunity where you can try it, learn something, try and change the idea a little bit, and keep improving. Because God will use that. Even though the hot cocoa tastes bad, even though the English lessons are bad, even though the space is uncomfortable and there's loud gangster music playing while we're trying to have an English discussion, all of those things were pretty not great. But our ministry was still able to get started from that. And we allowed ourselves to meet a lot of new people and to share the gospel with them through that experience. That's how the coffee house got started. And from there, it grew into the coffee shop because we had many friends that were interested in things of faith. They wanted to learn to read the Bible. They wanted to learn how to pray. They're interested to know about Jesus. And so we needed to create a space for them. And eventually, the Friday night wasn't enough, so we started having people come to our house on Sunday night. One time per month, we created a new weird Chinese word. We called it 餐拜会. 晚餐的餐, 敬拜的拜. We combined worship, the bai part, and food, the 餐 part. So we put them together. We said we're going to eat food and we're going to sing worship songs together. That's our whole night. And so we did that once a month. We did a kind of a fellowship in our apartment until too many people were coming and the neighbors got mad. I said, you're using the elevator too much and your house is too noisy on Sunday nights when you do your thing. And you're so weird, we don't know what you're doing. What kind of weird business or thing is this? We don't know. So we decided, hey, we need to move out beyond this space. But at that time, our friends, they were all pretty young, maybe 20 years old, something around that age. And most of them were not Christians. And even if they were Christians, and even if they knew about tithing, and even if they were willing to tithe, it wouldn't add up to much because they're kind of young. They don't have a lot of their own income or ability, capacity to do those things. So we're praying, and we sensed that God was calling us at that time to start a church, to plant a church in that space. But we didn't have that space. We just had our apartment. And so we're praying, and we're asking God to provide the space. And then we realized, okay, if we're going to do this church, maybe God also wants us to have a business at the same time, because the business can be maybe help out with the bills a little bit, and also can be a way that we can actually reach more people. In the same way that going out on the street and yelling free English with signs was allowing us to meet people, maybe a business could do something similar. And that's why we started the coffee shop in 2012. So from 2009 to 2012, we were trying out these new ideas. They were growing from Bible studies, growing from English outreaches. We did the Alpha course, which is kind of an outreach that some people use, where you watch a movie and then discuss it together. We're doing these things, we're learning and growing, and eventually by 2012, we were able to open the coffee shop and start the church, having regular Sunday services. I'm so thankful for what God has done so far, because I look back, and many of those things, the first 5 years, from 2008 to 2013, after we got things going, and then from 2012 at the launch until now, we're still going. And I look back and I see, wow, there's a lot of mistakes that we made, a lot of things that we didn't do perfect, a lot of opportunities that we missed, and ways that we could improve. But God was faithful through that. I look back on that and I see God was faithful. But it takes people being willing to partner with God. And that's us. That's you. Whatever time in life you're in, however young or old you might be, however your finances might look, whatever job you might have, God has an opportunity for you. I want to encourage those of you that God is already putting something on your heart these days and weeks. You're here today. It's not an accident. God has put you in a space, the company that you work for, the family that you're in, the school that you go to. These are all ways that God wants to communicate his message to people around you. And he's chosen you and put you in that space for that particular reason. As we fast forward through these years, we had the coffee shop going, and things were going pretty okay. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. I remember around 2019, before the pandemic happened, that we were doing a review. It's called the Strategic Field Review. And the purpose of this is every 5 years or so to get some leaders from outside of our ministry come together and to discuss what has been happening and what maybe is God inviting and challenging us to do in the future. And they looked at the ministry from the last few years, and they said, wow, it seems like English outreach has really had a great impact. You've met a lot of people through the universities that you travel to, the other schools that you see, the street outreaches that you do, and many of these things are you use English to connect with those people, and they seem to be very receptive. People are quite receptive to that. And so they gave us a challenge. They said, we would like you to focus more on English ministry and see how you can grow this. That's the challenge for the next few years to see. So we got really excited. Said, we're going to start this education center. We found a building to rent, and we had investors lined up. We had some people that were going to donate some finances to help us out, and we had everything ready to go. And then March 2020 happened. That's when the border shut down in the U.S. here, and Taiwan was similarly very locked down. Not sure when this is going to open up. And then the investors called and they said, we have to pull out our finances. So we're not able to help you continue to create this. That's 2020. And then Taiwan was one of the slower countries to open back up again after the pandemic was finished. In some places it was open a lot more quickly, and in other places like Taiwan, it seemed like it lasted a long time. And we're so thankful that we're still able to keep going, but the process has been slowed down, and that's where we're at right now. We're going through a process of reopening and moving in that direction. But in 2022, we were able to move into a new location. where in our new location, we have more space for some of the classes and activities that we want to do, more space for the church to be able to go. But our old location, we were on the first floor, so you could see us from outside and walk in and check it out. Now we're on the 7th floor, so we're kind of far up. You have to be intentional, and our outreach focus has to be shifted, and we have to learn new ways. So again, we're back to the idea of praying and listening and trying and investigating what are some of the new ideas that we can do, that we can go through. So I think on the next slide, I have a question that I've been asking that I think we're beginning to see some opportunity from this, and I want to share it with you. That's the process that we went through to start the cafe. And this is the question that I'm asking. What do we need? What do my Taiwanese friends need? We've been discovering over the years that there are many transitions in life that people go through. And when we go through these transitions in life, we need extra support. There are 4 big transitions that happen in early adulthood. You go to college, when you start your career, if you get married and have kids. Those are 4 big transitions that we make. And in those big transitions, we need access to new skills. What got you through high school might not get you through college. And what got you through college might not work in your career. You need new skills. It's important that we learn these new skills. We know that we need these new skills. That's why we go to training, or why we get a coach, or we do some of these different things to help us get these skills. But we sometimes aren't always aware of how much we need a community of people, how much we need a group of friends or family, someone who will support us and help us to grow in this new area. That's the most important thing. And I'm sure it's happening here as well, but in Taiwan, it's easy to say that there is an epidemic of loneliness. There are a lot of people that are feeling very lonely and very hopeless. We have more friends on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok than we ever had before, but those relationships are more shallow than they've ever been before. And instead of investing deeply into friendships that can make an impact in our lives, we fail to do that, and instead, we feel increasingly lonely. We share ourselves on the internet, but we don't make deep community connections that can help us to get through these difficult times. My Taiwanese friends are telling me that they're struggling with that, and it's causing them to lose hope. It's causing them to lose hope. Ultimately, more important than the skills that everyone knows that they need for the new season, and more important than the community that they might not be totally aware of needing, but certainly need, is they need the Father's love. That's the most important. That's the transforming piece. That's the difference that will make everyone's lives transformed and have a very different experience than if they don't have the Father's love. My heart, my desire is that we would be able to share the message of Jesus and reconnect people to the Father's love through this education center. Our friends are in need of faith in Jesus, in need of a community that can support them, in need of practical skills that can help them to get through to their next situation in life. Our goal is to create this education center that can help them connect in these 3 spaces. We want to help our friends. The easiest way to get them connected in the beginning is through practical skills like English or anything else related to helping them develop their career or be successful in relationships or figure out different things with their health or different areas. But as we do that, what we've seen is that our friends are even more hungry for the community. They come because they want to get some skills, but they stay because they have a group of friends that are supporting them. We can see that. And so we are trying to do many different types of outreaches to get them connected. Let me show you some of those. And I also have a friend, 2 friends that you might recognize. Do you recognize anybody in these pictures? Anybody see Chris and Fiona? Yeah, yay. They came in 2022, and they've been helping us out in many different ways over the years. And they've been a big blessing to our community. I want to mention and celebrate them because I think they did something really awesome that is very difficult to do and very, very hard, but also I'm very thankful for it because our friends, our young Taiwanese friends, my experience, my observation is that many of them seem like they don't have an older family member that can help and support them. Someone once said, not me originally, but someone once said that Taiwan is like a fatherless nation, and that there are many people in Taiwan that are hungry to have a father and a mother in their lives, even though they have a biological father and mother, but they don't have that connection with their family member. They don't feel that support, that love, that care. And immediately once they make the mistake of being with their, they make a mistake, they don't get the right score, or they don't go to the right job, or they don't marry the right person, then they have shame and they get rejected and they don't measure up. They're struggling with that. What I've seen in Chris and Fiona is they have made some really great connections with young people in the community. And I don't know exactly what the community looks like here, as I don't come as often as I would like to, but what I've seen is that people are very open to just having a coffee or having a lunch, having a meal, having a time to hang out with them. And it's a great opportunity for them to be mentors and for them to be encouragements in so many amazing ways. I feel it's such a blessing. There's many young people whose lives have been impacted. There's one person that's in the picture now, Andrew. He's a young guy who we baptized in 2019, and he's participating in our church community as an associate pastor and getting some training and hoping one day to become a lead pastor in a church. And he got married last year. They had a baby now, just came out in May, and it's really great. And Andrew has shared with me many times how encouraging it is to have someone like Chris Kwok in his life. And so I just think it's really great to know that there's that kind of encouragement. And what I love about this is that they discovered a special secret that many people, as we get closer to retirement and we get ready to finish our regular job and kind of transition into a different part of life, we think, oh, it's time kind of to take it easy. And I think that's good. You know, you work hard your whole life and you're going for it, and now it's time to relax. It's retirement and it's good. But I think what they noticed, and what I think is just so cool, is that they realized the impact that they can make. And I want to encourage you, as you go through your life and progress, I want to remind you of the impact that you can make. That there are young people who need your support and encouragement, who need your blessing in their lives. And they might not seem like they need it at the beginning. They might seem a little bit apprehensive. They might seem a little bit unwilling. But what you find is that these people are really, they're hungry. They're hungry for community support. They're hungry for people like you who can come around them and encourage them. So, you know, we've done all kinds of different outreaches, and so they've been facilitating English conversations and helping out with lesson plan creation and doing that. They've been spending time with people. That's the one that I really wanted to highlight is more important than a game night. They just spent a lot of time with people. They emphasized a lot of time building relationships with people and doing different outreaches. And those relationships that they built up, I think it resulted in some really amazing opportunity to sow the seeds of the gospel and to encourage people in their faith. So, has it always been perfect or easy for them, for us? No, it hasn't. But I'm so blessed and thankful for those kinds of outreaches that happen. And I wanted to bring back that report to you to let you know we are thankful for them. And we're also willing and open to having other people similar to them in situations. As you stop by, you know, on your way to a Hong Kong vacation, you want to spend a few days with us, or maybe you are in a similar situation in life and you'd like to talk more about that. That's something that we would love to consider with you. But there's many different kinds of outreaches that we can do, and you have opportunities for that kind of outreach here in your community. It's similar for us in Taiwan, and I love that there are some parallels. There are some connections that we have in many ways. What we are doing in Taiwan, similar things can happen here or already happening here at SVAC. So thank you for that. I think it's good not just to see how they have partnered with us and made a big impact in Taiwan, but all of you have made a big impact in Taiwan through your prayers and through your financial partnership as well. You know, SVAC as an overall church community is a huge financial supporter to make Aroma continue to go. When you give to the General Great Commission Fund, and also when you give specifically to the ministry that my wife and I and our team is doing in Taiwan, you're helping to make sure that that continues to go. So thank you. Thank you for your generosity, for your partnership in the gospel. And those kinds of outreaches are happening all over the place. But you know, sometimes you might feel like, oh, the outreaches are great, and we can all do the outreach. But one of the questions I get sometimes, and I heard that question came from some people in this group recently as well, is, well, great, you can do the outreach, but then what happens after that? How do you actually connect them into your community? How do you take the next steps with them? It's good. There's people that are seeking. They're hungry in their connections, they're hungry in their skills, they're hungry in the community, they're beginning to hear the gospel, the seeds of faith are being sown. And so what can we do with that? What's the next steps that we can take? And so I think one of the big ways is that we try to make connections in those outreaches that we do. So at the end, many times on Friday night English outreach, we'll say, hey, make a friend today at this table, and encourage them to take out the app. It's called Line, kind of like WhatsApp. Take out your Line app, and everybody add each other as friends and see that we're making new connections. We have different activities just for fun that we'll do maybe on Saturday, like go on a hike or go on a beach day, doing different things like that will make connections with people. Some of them are more organized, like events. Some of them are less organized, which is how we build relationships. And that just takes time. That's what I think is so special about people who are willing to invest their time. You can think in your life, who are the people who have made big impact in your faith? Who are the people who have helped you to grow a lot? Those people are the ones that are willing to spend time with you. Maybe they have a great way to speak. Maybe they have so much Bible knowledge, but maybe not. And many times they don't. That's not what makes the biggest difference. It's the people that are willing to spend time with us to share, like Paul says, their very lives with us. And if we're the kind of people that are willing to do that, we can really make a big impact in people's lives. So we create these events and we set aside time to eat meals with people, go to coffee, do things together. Sometimes more organized, like a hike. Sometimes less organized, like just come to my house next weekend. But then we try to share the gospel with them. This is something that has been challenging on my heart recently. I know that you are very aware of this, but some people are not. That the message of the gospel is the message that needs to be heard by every person, and it's less and less clear to people in coming generations what is the gospel and how do I share the gospel. And so we have a training we do called 3D Gospel, and 3D Gospel is helping us to see that there are different ways that you can share, you can communicate the gospel message. You can communicate it in different ways, but it's still the same core message. And so the 3D Gospel, this training that we do from this book, is helping us to understand that different cultures and different ages may respond to the gospel message or different parts of the gospel message in different ways. Some people, the focus and emphasis is on guilt and innocence. You did something bad, you're a sinner, and if you went to court today, you would be guilty and you would go to prison. Guilt and innocence. But Jesus comes in and he gives us his innocence. He gives us his righteousness. He restores us again. So true. Very true. The message of the gospel is that, but it's also the message that because of the things that we have done, we have brought shame upon ourselves, upon our family, upon our God. But our God is not a God who is influenced or impacted by that shame. Instead, he gives his honor and his righteousness. He gives his honor to us and restores us. That's why when the prodigal son comes running home, the father puts the robe on him and puts the ring and gives him the sandals. It's restoring the son's honor back in the community and giving him that place of honor. And the message is guilt and innocence, and the message is shame and honor, but the message is also because we have opened the door to spiritual attack, we are people that have fear. fear because of our sins, fear from the demonic attacks and the ghosts that can come and attack us. But our God, our Jesus, he has authority over those ghosts and those demons. He has authority. He is the name above all names. And so if you trust in the name of Jesus, you don't need to be afraid of those things. He gives you power to overcome. And he shows us that he is ultimate in power to overcome. It's not just guilt and innocence. It's not just shame and honor. It's also fear and power and many other ways that we can describe the gospel message to those people who need to hear it. And so we share the gospel, and we share it by telling people our story of how we came to faith, telling people testimonies of what God has done in our lives from when we first became believers until today, telling stories of other people whose lives have been impacted by the message of Jesus, and sharing the gospel in every way possible. When we share the gospel, people hear it, seeds are sown, and people respond. Not always in the way that we think they will or in the time that we want them to, but God begins working and growing those people because the seeds are sown. And I'm very impressed over the years how I can step back and see the times when the greatest impacts were made is not because we have the best event, although I do like our events. Not because we have the most amazing people on the team and everyone is incredible and all-star, but because we have people that love Jesus and want to make sure that other people can hear about Jesus. You don't have to have every answer. You don't have to know all the words in the Bible, have them memorized in Greek and Hebrew. You don't have to have any of that stuff. The simple message of what Jesus has done in your life is enough to impact a person for eternity. So we have to share. We have to be people that are focused and emphasizing the mission of sharing the good news of Jesus with everyone around us. And as we do that, people will respond. Jesus says, when I'm lifted up, I draw people to me. And so we lift up the message that Jesus went on the cross and he died for us. He died for our guilt and for our shame and for our fear. And he replaced those with his righteousness and his honor and his power. And we are restored people. We share that gospel as often as we can in as many ways as we can. And then we invite people to take next steps with us, to go through discipleship programs and processes, to join us in different events, more biblically focused events like Alpha or Bible studies, different courses that we can do. Hopefully we're launching another Alpha course in the fall. We also have BDC, stands for Building Discipling Culture. And our goal is to help people to smell, become, and spread the aroma of Christ. To empower people to know what it's like to follow Jesus, to challenge them, to invite them into a relationship with him and challenge them to follow Jesus, whatever the cost may be. When people are given that challenge, they respond to it. And we have that privilege to walk with those people as they respond. But in an effort to continue this and to strengthen this process, to give more opportunity for more people to hear about Jesus, we're trying to do this education center. That's what I want to share a little bit more specifically about next. Our vision has always been to help people smell, become, and spread the aroma of Christ. And there's a number that's always impressed in my mind that I can't forget. It's a number that kind of haunts me a little bit. That number is 432 because every day in Taiwan, an average of 446 people pass away per day. And from that, 432 people pass away without knowing Jesus. That's a very scary number because that means there's 432 people today in Taiwan who will pass away without knowing Jesus. They go to eternity without Jesus. They don't have salvation. They don't have heaven. They don't have the reality of Jesus in their lives. And that number is the number that we're trying to change. Our heart, we believe that God wants everyone in Taiwan to know Jesus. Everyone in Taiwan to have a chance to respond to the message of Jesus. And so we want to share that message with as many people as we can. Specifically in Taipei, in the group of people, young adults, like 20 to 40-year-olds that we're trying to reach, that go through those 4 life stages I mentioned earlier, there's about 1 million. Just in Taipei, there's about 1 million people. And our strategy is to reach those people, to use these these educational classes and these different things I'll share with you in a minute to help those people to have access to the gospel. My heart is that we would be able to share the gospel over the next few years through these classes, through the church, through the teams that come from the U.S., through internships and people like Chris and Fiona coming, just every opportunity possible to share the gospel with 100,000 people in Taipei and beyond. And I don't know exactly how we're going to do that, but I do know that God is faithful. I believe that God gave me that number as not just a number to arbitrarily say, oh yeah, we reached 100,000, but to remember that every time we share the gospel, every gospel conversation is another person that God loves so much that he wants them to hear the message and to receive it. So I want to share the gospel with 100,000 people, train and equip 10,000 people to help them to know what it's like to be a follower of Jesus and to be empowered in that. And then finally, to send out 1,000 people to go out from Aroma to other places. Maybe other cities in Taiwan, like our friend Nancy, who's doing a surfing ministry on the east coast of Taiwan. And maybe outside of Taiwan to other places around the world. I truly believe that God has chosen Taiwan, not for any political reason or anything like that, but that he wants everyone to know that Taiwan is so special, that God loves every person in Taiwan, and that he wants to use Taiwan as a country to show his mighty strength. That even some people and countries don't believe that Taiwan is even a country, and they look down on Taiwan. But God can use the weak things to shame the strong, and the foolish things, according to the world, to shame the wise, because our God is so powerful, he can use anyone in any way. And I look at that, I see, wow, my Taiwanese friends, they're already thinking internationally. They're already interested in they're already interested in what's happening around the world, and they're very international. They want to have new companies that they start and go get jobs in other places. And I think, what would it look like if all my Taiwanese friends that are already thinking so internationally, what would it look like if they could be people that would go out, and as they're going, they take the message of Jesus? That gets me so excited. So what do I want to do? I want to spend the next 3 years, the next 36 months, trying to get this education center started and sustainable. So we've already started some aspects of it, but we do have a lot more work to do. I'll share with you on the next slide, I believe, about some of those things specifically. But we want to build up this education center so that it can be financially sustainable and then become kind of a machine, to reach more and more people around Taipei, around Taiwan, and around the world. So that's why I put the number 36. That's 3 years. That's those months, and each month to create new classes and new opportunities for our friends to reach out to them. But it is going to come with a cost, average of about $150,000 per year, including some of the staff on the ground, like my wife and I, and also the education center getting going, and then the site itself has some ongoing costs, and that's the financial aspect that I mentioned there. But I want to share with you more specifically about kind of what we're already getting started on in this ministry and the things that we'd like to have happen as we continue. So we can see here, you've heard about this Friday night English outreach. It's called Coffee Talk. We're still doing talks, and we're going to continue to do talks. Right now we have Friday night Coffee Talk and Tuesday night Easy Coffee Talk, EC Talk. I'm especially excited about EC Talk because Andrew, the guy I mentioned earlier, Taiwanese guy, he started this all by himself. I mean, with other people's help, but he said, hey, I want to do another one on Tuesday nights, but I want to make it a little bit more easy for some of my Taiwanese friends who don't have as high a level of English yet. Make it something that's more for beginners. And as a Taiwanese guy who never studied overseas, his English is already so phenomenal, and he's so inspiring to a lot of our friends that now, average on a Tuesday night, we have 20 or 30 people that will join into EC Talk, Easy Coffee Talk. And Andrew said, hey, I want to do this on Tuesday nights, and people are coming to this now, and he's already trained up another leader who's taking it over, and he's getting other people involved. And I love seeing some of my Taiwanese friends, in particular Jonathan, whose story I'm going to share tomorrow in the service. But Jonathan, he's a young Taiwanese guy, and he's actually using EC Talk as a way to invite his friends to church, to share the gospel with them. I love talks, and I want us to continue to reach more people through the talks. through the Talks ministry. It's a great first step. There's almost no commitment. You can just sign up and come, and then you get to experience kind of what the part of what the community is like, and then you get to practice your English and make some new friendships as well. But it's not just going to be the talks. We also have the one-on-one program that we're starting. And this one-on-one program includes one-on-one tutoring for people who want to improve their English for a specific reason, like maybe to pass a job interview or to get ready for a trip that they're doing overseas. There's one lady who's in the one-on-one program already. She lives in another city in Taiwan, and her church wants to start like an English outreach in the church. So she's getting tutored from one of us at Aroma so that she can go and do this English ministry in her church, in her Taiwanese church in another city. And so we want to help our people in different ways. Some of them are not Christians yet. Some of them are Christians. We want to do tutoring and also do language coaching, providing mentorship and other relationships that will really help our friends to grow in those three key areas: skills, community, and then gospel conversations, reconciliation to the Father. The last one is to launch these classes. Already this summer, we've begun some of them and are planning others, but we have a psychology class, an online class that we're doing, and then we also have a theology class, and then we also have a business class that we're working on. I love these because all three of them are actually created in partnership with other organizations. So it's not just us on our own. I started an online psychology class with a YouTuber friend of mine who's very interested in psychology stuff, and we're doing that together. The business class that we're doing is actually working with another local business in the area around Aroma to provide English training for their employees, for their sales representatives, and for their customer service and their engineers, to help them to have improved English so that they can increase their business footprint around the world. And then the theology class is started with an organization that wants to help. There's a lot of people that are interested in cross-culture. And so this organization started started to improve the cross-cultural relationships between California and Taiwan. And then they have about 400 people that they're reaching out to, and many of those people used to go to church but stopped. I'm sure you can think of someone recently who used to go to church but then stopped. And they're reaching out to those people and encouraging them and helping them to get back into their healthier relationship with the church community. I just love what these other organizations are doing, and that we get to be part of providing classes that can help those organizations to continue to grow and to develop. So what we want to do is we want to keep pressing on in these three key areas. Keep the talks going and growing. Begin and increase the one-on-one programs, and continue to launch more classes. Some of the classes we already have, some of them we will launch in the future. But to use these three different kinds of methods, these three different product offerings, essentially, to reach as many people as we can in Taipei and beyond Taipei. And what I want to do now, we're getting closer to the end of my sharing time, is that I would really love to ask you to pray for these three things. The first one is to pray for leaders. I think I mentioned some of their names up here on this next slide I've got for you here. These are people who are involved in our business that we started, and they're helping in different ways. Angela, Andrew, Mickey, Maya, and Jay, among other people, who are helping to get this education center going. And some of them are helping to do some of the day-to-day work or the HR. Some of them are creating classes and teaching them. Others of them are helping support with different administration work or marketing. And we just need to have a lot of development happening. Many of the people that want to join this education center don't have a lot of experience themselves. And so it's our opportunity and privilege and responsibility to develop these people, to give them a chance to try in the same way that we were given a chance to try when we were 21, 22 years old and we moved over to Taipei without any prior experience. To give them a chance to step in and to try these things. Some of them are Taiwanese, some of them are from the US here. And our goal is to develop leaders that can then be launched to start and continue different programs we have in Aroma already, and then also to go out from Aroma to other places and to continue to spread this model, this idea, maybe to other cities in Taiwan and maybe even other places around the world as we continue. I want to pray for the leaders. I want to pray for the programs that we're developing. I mentioned the classes and the one-on-ones and the talks. Each of these programs, it takes a lot of effort and energy to get them going and to sustain them. So we want to develop these programs. We want them to be creative and effective in reaching more people, in helping them to develop those critical skills that they need to feel that they're part of the community, and then also to develop those programs in a way that they can introduce people to Jesus, that they can be a way that we share the gospel. And then the third one is client development. This one is important because you can make the best class in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then nobody's going to come. And so we have to put effort and energy into reaching more people with our marketing plans. A few years ago when we started the coffee shop, and it was just a coffee shop, and the first floor, everyone walking by, they look in, and I wave at them, and I say, come try some coffee, and then they come try some coffee. But now it's a little bit of a different way that we need to approach it. And so we're learning about different strategies for online marketing and how partnerships with other organizations and working together with people can help to grow our client base. But we want to reach as many of those 1 million people as possible, reach as many of them as we can so that we can reach more people, help them to smell, become, and spread the aroma of Christ. Pastor Warwick had given me a list of a few different questions that some of you had given to him previously. So I think I already answered some of them, but I also know there's a couple that maybe I didn't directly answer already. I'd like to mention those quickly and then open it up for some Q&A time. Does that sound okay? All right, good. So yeah, are we trying the aroma approach? I was given that question, are we trying the aroma approach in other areas? Yeah, we have other schools that we go to. There's a university that we've had a relationship with for a while now, and many people have come into church community or even to faith as a result of our connections in that university. And we're looking to get into a couple of other universities already. We have a relationship with a middle school, and that middle school relationship has provided us a lot of opportunity to share the gospel with younger students and to encourage them. I particularly love that one because we used English as a way to get into the school with really high quality level English, and actually, not to talk about other organizations or anything, but the school, a representative of the school told us that we're allowed to come into the school anytime we want because we actually teach English. We don't pretend like we're teaching English and then just come in and do other stuff. And so we want to provide the highest quality possible when we go into the schools, but that gives us an opportunity to share the good news with people through culture exchange and through sharing about different holidays like Christmas or Easter. And we do that in the schools, and many people are responsive. But I like that it's not just Aroma going to a school and trying to reach those kids. There's actually other churches that are in that area around the school. And those churches are partnered with us so that when there's students that might seem interested in hearing more about Jesus or anything like that, then we can connect those students to those other churches in that area. So it becomes something it's much bigger and I think more powerful than if it was just Aroma on its own. I really like that we can use that approach in different ways. So students, yes. And our target demographic is definitely 20 to 40-year-olds, but it's very curious to me that there are a few older folks over the years there's one lady in particular who we baptized a few years ago. Her name is Shelley, and Shelley had spent a lot of money trying to learn English through these online programs, and they just didn't work for her. And then she found out about Aroma, and she came to Coffee Talk one night, and she was scared to even speak like any English at all. But we were patient with her. Somebody sat next to her at the table and was able to help translate sometimes when she wasn't sure what was going on. And she said, I spent all this money on these other programs and nothing worked for me, but I came to Aroma for a few months and I feel confident to speak. Is her English perfect? Not yet. But she has learned and grown a lot, and what I love is just to see her confidence. And then that led her to have confidence to try out faith. And as a result, then her son has also become a follower of Jesus, and we baptized him. And now we're praying for Dad as well to be saved, her husband. And so I just think it's so cool that we can see people from, young kids all the way up through, I think Shelley is in her early 60s. to be able to get all different age ranges and groups of people and to be able to meet together with them and to share the good news with them. I would love to expand to other parts of Taiwan. It seems like a big impossible thing, so that might be probably what God wants us to do. So that's something that we can definitely be praying for. I'd like to figure out how to do it okay in one spot and then go from there, but we definitely are excited about what God is doing, not just here in Taipei, but in other places around as well. And then, we do attract a lot of singles in our English outreaches because that's the kind of the demographic of people that we started with, and it seems to work really well for them in terms of what they want to do on Friday nights and the space and the time that they have available. College students and people who are earlier in their career, we connect with them pretty well. But as our friends that we connected with as singles are getting married and having kids, we're actually connecting a lot with families. And so we're growing into that and reaching out as well. But we do face those challenges, and I think one challenge that I'm seeing us face is that the timing of things is difficult when you've geared your whole ministry towards young adults, like 20 to 30, and then you're trying to expand and to reach, you have to start something like a kids program and children's church. And now the big challenge that I'm facing, that I'm wrestling with and feeling like we have a lot of space to grow in this is youth. My oldest son is 11, and we don't have anything above like 6th grade, We don't have anything above that. We've tried a couple things and it hasn't stuck yet, but we are really facing a challenge in how do we reach that age group of people, that demographic of people, to be able to reach them. So I think that's a big challenge, is the younger youth and how do we reach to them. Yeah, and then the last thing I want to share and then open it up for questions with you. You guys have been so patient, and I don't think I see anybody asleep right now. Way to go. We see people. I love this question. It was challenging because it made me think back a little bit on some of how do we balance this? And I'll be honest, I think we haven't done a great job of this over the years. How do we balance the needs of seekers who are interested in faith, and then on the other side of believers who are trying to grow and deepen their faith? We have a lot of people who come through, and they're initially quite attracted, and they're seekers, and they're interested, and we can grow with them. And relatively quickly, over the course of months or years, we can reach someone, share the gospel with them, and maybe help them to make a decision to follow Jesus. But then I think that sometimes a place where we could improve a bit is in how do we get clear for each of our events or each of our different strategies and programs, different things that we have. How do we get clear on making sure that you understand what the purpose of this is? And so we do have some people that come and say, oh, the Bible teaching isn't as deep as I want it to be, or the Bible study was too confusing. I don't know anything about Jesus yet. And so you have both sides of that, right? You have both struggles with that. And so I think it's definitely something that we can improve on. But one thing that I've been personally challenged with very recently, I was sharing this with someone just a little bit earlier today, is that I think I've been personally challenged that I think sometimes in our communities, I don't know about here because I don't go here very often, but I can see in my community, my church community, that I think sometimes we kind of water down the message. And we try to make it a little bit too easy, all you do is just believe and everything will work out. And what I see is a Jesus in the Bible who is very challenging, to the point where everybody leaves, Jesus is like, hey, I got this really hard teaching. You're probably not going to like it very much. Here it is. And then everybody leaves. They all say, this is a hard teaching. You've got the rich young ruler, for example. Hey, Jesus, I'm pretty good. What do I have to do? Oh, the one thing that you don't want to do, that's the thing you need to do. Sell everything you have, give all your money to the poor, and then you can follow me. And it wasn't that that's a formula. If we all just sold everything we had and gave the money to the poor, that we would all be perfect Christians. It's not a formula. But Jesus knows our hearts. He knows the things that we are personally struggling with, the things that we're holding back from him. And I think he's looking for people. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been a Christian. It doesn't matter any of those things. But if you are willing to go all in for Jesus, if you are willing to give everything you have to follow him, and knowing that that will be a cost of your time and your finances. It will be a cost and a sacrifice of your own agenda and your own priorities in life. And all of those things come number 2 under following Jesus and that challenge. I think many years ago, I lived out that challenge and I shared that challenge with people. But I think it's easy sometimes for us to get a little bit comfortable. I don't know if you've ever felt comfortable, maybe too comfortable recently. Maybe it's just me. But I think God is looking for some people that are willing to go all in. And if we will have radical love and devotion to Jesus, I think the challenge of believers versus seekers will disappear. How do I think that? Because I think about years ago when I was a little bit less comfortable and a little bit more radical, a little bit more crazy. The seekers and the believers could be together in the same room, and somehow it worked out. And we weren't complaining about this is too deep for me as a seeker or this is too easy for me as a believer. We were more focused on Jesus, and as we hosted his presence, he could give each person what they needed, not me. Not me making the perfect sermon to convince everybody or making it low level enough so that the seekers could understand and feel like it's easy, but also make it hard enough so that the believers can feel like they're being challenged and kind of acquiescing or adjusting to meet everyone else's needs. Instead, if Jesus is here, he's going to give you exactly what you need. He's going to challenge you in exactly what you need. So my challenge to myself at the end of this is I want to be a person, not just for an education center or for a ministry in Taiwan, but for my whole life, who goes all in for Jesus and is really sold out for him. I believe that if we do that in Aroma, and if we do that at SVAC, it doesn't matter if we have the perfect program. It doesn't matter if we have enough people to join our service team. It doesn't matter if we have the best facility or if we can run everything right or not. Jesus will show up. And if Jesus' presence is there, then, as I said earlier, if I'm lifted up, I draw everyone to myself. And I believe that Jesus is looking and inviting us as his people to live life radically like that. Thank you for taking the time here together today. We've got a little bit of space for some Q&A. Do you guys have any questions or comments? If they're mean, can you wait till after so you can tell me personally? Like, that was terrible, Chris. Okay, thank you. No, I'm serious. Please wait. Do you have any questions? Maybe we need to stretch out a little bit, huh? That's super boring. Yes? A typical day for me. Ooh, that's a good question. Typical day. I try to wake up around 5 or 5:30 and spend some time with Jesus, and then I go for a run, and then I will take my kids to school. I get to Aroma by maybe around 8 o'clock in the morning, and then got some time to do some planning or some praying or some other things. At 9 o'clock, we clean twice a week, and so we do some cleaning as a team together, and then we have some prayer meetings or some other staff meetings in the mornings usually, and then in the afternoons, working on different projects, meeting with different people. And then in the evenings, we have different outreaches. So Tuesday, outreach, and then Wednesday is like small group. And then Thursdays, usually there's a couple different outreaches that we rotate through on Thursday nights. And then Friday is a coffee talk. And then Saturday sometimes have some outreaches. So the evenings usually are more like outreach or different fellowship, different Bible study, small group, something like that. And then Sunday morning we have the church service, and then we have some fellowship time in the afternoons as well. So finish the outreaches usually start at 7 or 8 p.m. at night and go till 9:30 or 10 sometimes. So if I go to the outreach on Friday night, for example, probably home by 10:30 or 11, depending on how long the cleanup takes and how many conversations with people after the actual conversation time is done, that those people want to have another conversation, and then meet with them at that. So let's say it's usually like 8 to 5 at Aroma doing, maybe it's some administrative work or some planning, some preparing, some meetings, a lot of one-on-ones with people to help do discipleship and development and small groups, that kind of thing. And then try to have dinner with my family or with some other people that we're reaching out to or people in our community, and then maybe do some kind of outreach event in the evening. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, cool. Follow-up question? Yes. How do I keep challenging myself? Well, the Lord has blessed me with a lot of people that have opinions, so I like to listen to those and be challenged in that. That's good. My wife is one of them. Praise the Lord. How do I keep challenging myself? I think I'm kind of driven, and maybe it's a little bit, it can be, maybe sometimes it's not super always good, but I see there's always more. You know, I see there's always more, and I want to pursue that. I want to try that. And I think my personality is much like, let's jump out and try something more and something new. And then there's other people on the team, like Andrew I mentioned earlier, who are more like, let's not do so much more wide, but let's go like deeper and be better at some of these things. So we have a lot of like, zanza, you know, over that. We have like some challenge over that, some disagreements sometimes about that. So I think that that having first, you know, I start my morning with God and trying to hear His voice and understand what's happening from His perspective, and then different meetings and challenges from people in the community and my team will happen during that. And then I guess the third one that comes to my mind is I have an advisory team. And the advisory team, we meet usually about once a quarter. There's a couple Taiwanese people and a couple Americans who are on that advisory team, and their job is to kind of challenge me in these things. So I look back to that as well. I also have meetings regularly with my boss at the national office for the Christian Missionary Alliance. So does that answer your question? God, people, boss, advisory team, wife. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
Are they full-time and they get paid, or they have other jobs?
Yeah. Which staff or how many staff are full-time, how many staff are part-time getting paid, and how many of them have other outside jobs? Okay, good. Yeah. Our team has shifted a little bit over the summer since I left, so I'm trying to count the numbers and make the adjustments, because there were some people that were on the team and then they decided to be not on the team after I left. So that changed things. But so on the business side, we have our coffee shop manager, and then we have department leaders for each of the 3 big departments that we have. And those department leaders and the manager, they're all paid. They're paid either a full-time salary like the coffee shop manager, or paid like a part-time stipend. Like the leader, Andrew, during the summer while I'm gone, he took over my position leading the education center. So his education center job, he's getting a part-time pay for that. It's about $300 per month, I believe. So it's not a lot of money, but he's getting paid for that. And then we have the church staff. We have one full-time church staff member right now. And we had another one before, but they moved on to do some other stuff. So right now we have opportunity. If anyone wants to move to Taiwan and be on the pastoral staff, let me know. Okay, we've got some space for you. Would love to have you come. And so right now we have 3 full-time paid positions, Taiwanese people. And then we have 4 part-time positions, 5 part-time positions, including the barista staff that are part-time, that make the coffee, 2 of them. And then we have several different volunteers in different kind of levels of volunteer. So what I do in our team is I qualify staff. If you're staff, it could be paid or unpaid staff. And the requirements are, first of all, that you're committed to the team. We have a team covenant that we sign together. And the second one is that you are doing what's called an IDP, an individual development plan. So you have kind of a growth plan for how you want to grow in different areas of your life. And then the third one is, there are some different statistics, but generally speaking, they say that if you're like a committed follower of Jesus in a church, that you probably spend maybe like 10 hours a week on church stuff, like go to the church service and serve. Everybody serve in church, okay? Everybody serve. All right, so, but you're serving in church, and then you got like a small group too, right? Or a Bible study, something that's also like feeding during the week. So if you're spending about 10 hours on that, I say, hey, as staff, I want to challenge you to go for 15 hours per week or more. And that could be paid or unpaid. And so some people, they have, like there's one guy named Jay who's actually teaching English outside. He's an American guy teaching English at a Bushiban, at a cram school outside of Aroma, but he's also helping to run one of our programs and then developing a second program. And so he's being paid kind of like part-time job for each of those individual things that he's doing. Does that make sense? It's very complicated, I know. Wish I could figure out a way to make it less weird. Myself. Yeah, I can't tell who asked that question, but that's good. Somebody's got, okay, cool. Yeah, so our compensation comes from the Christian Missionary Alliance here in the U.S., and the Christian Missionary Alliance, over the years, those of you who have been part of the CMA for a long time, you know about the Great Commission Fund. And the Great Commission Fund, for many years, has been an excellent way to help to send out international workers around the world. But they noticed a number of years ago a trend, which is that giving to a general fund seems to be going down a little bit. But at the same time as giving to a general fund is going down a little bit, giving to individuals is going up. And the net is that overall there's actually more giving happening. It's just being distributed more specifically. And what they say, what they think it is that in younger generations in particular, people want to have a personal relationship with the person or the ministry that they're giving to. They kind of want to know you and see you, right? And know, okay, I'm not just giving to a random fund, but I'm giving to a specific individual. So they developed a funding strategy where they want international workers, 50% of my personal compensation comes directly from what's called undesignated giving with the Christian Missionary Alliance General, or Great Commission Fund. So if you today signed a check for SVAC and said undesignated giving to the GCF, part of that would come to us directly through that. Thank you. Then the other 50% of our compensation and any other projects like this education center that we want to run, those we have to fundraise for individually. So there are some people who will give maybe once a month, $20, $50, $100 a month, and then some people might want to give like annually. There's different ways you can give, including stocks or other things like that. So 50% of our compensation comes directly from undesignated giving through GCF. The other 50% is what's called self-subscribed, or people who are giving directly to our support account at the Alliance. That's a capped amount. I was talking with someone at another church a couple weeks ago, and he said, you're asking for $450,000 over the course of the next 3 years. You get to keep all that? And I said, no, not at all. Like way less than that. Most of that is going to the project and the site and the different things that we're doing. So and I've got more specific numbers that I can break down for you if you'd like afterwards, but our funding comes from, the short answer is our funding comes through the Christian Missionary Alliance in the U.S., through to us. And some of that we have to fundraise for, and some of that is given automatically through the Great Commission Fund. Does that answer the question? Awesome, thank you. Yes.
You've been in Taiwan, what, 15, 16 years
16 years.
now? So what's your plan going forward?
What's my plan going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to spend another 15, 20 years still in Taiwan? Or
I hope.
as your family grows, you know?
Yeah. When we moved to Taiwan in 2008, we agreed to 2 years. We said we're committed to 2 years. At the end of the first year, my boss at the time said, hey, you've been here for a year. You got 1 more year left. And we said, we don't want to go anywhere. We just feel like, hey, we're supposed to be here. And I remember back April 2008, I'll never forget, I was in the prayer room at my college that I was going to. And in the prayer room, there's a map of the whole world on the wall. Some of you might have heard this story before, but it's a good one. So I'm in the prayer room, and I look up at the map on the wall, and I see this picture. This is not a political statement, by the way. Taiwan is 3 times the size of China. Okay, it's this big thing on the map. And from this big Taiwan, there's arrows flying out. And I felt like God said 2 things to me. The first one is, I love Taiwan. I'm going to bring Taiwan into revival. And the second one is that I'm going to make Taiwan like the #1 missionary sending nation around the world. Now, those things seem kind of impossible in some ways, but our God is the God of the impossible. And so in that moment, I said to him, God, as long as you will let me be part of that, I want to be there. And I don't know if that means that I'll be there until I die or if I'll be there for 5 more years or whatever. But the short answer is I'm going to be there. I know it sounds kind of like a cop-out, but I'm going to be there until God says to go somewhere else. I don't sense that I'm being called to go somewhere else at this point, so I hope that I'll get to be there for a long time. The technical answer is that we renew contracts with Christian Missionary Alliance every 4 years. So starting from 2020 until 2024 was one contract, and then when we go back in September, that'll be another 4 years. So that'll be 2024 to 2028. And then we come back every 2 years. So that's why some of you, I got to meet you, and I'm so sorry, I'm really bad at names, but I remember a lot of faces. And so like 2022, I was here, right? And then now I'm here this weekend, and maybe see you in 2026 again. Who knows? But it's a 4-year contract that we renew with the Alliance. So the plan would be to be there for at least another 4 years and then see what happens after that. Yeah. We also filled out, for those of you who are wondering about this political thing, we also, in 2020, we had to write what's called a theology of risk, which basically is the Alliance letting us write our own ideas about whether we think it's good to stay in Taiwan if it's taken over by another country or not. And so we had to write that out and say, like, hey, it's risky business to be a missionary here in Taiwan, and we're going to stay here until our visa is revoked. So that's our plan at this point. We don't know. But, yeah. Other questions? Comments? Concerns? Yes.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the great sharing.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it's a comment or like question here, really. As you are in Silicon Valley, you for sure you know, and some of us, and not just me, I think, because we work at a high-tech company, which have a lot of connection with like Taiwan folks, and over the years we actually built some friendship and some Christians, some non-Christians, and so you mentioned about the promotion part of the future program that you're planning. Are there things that like we can help out, maybe distributing the news and
That's a great question. Thank you. All my high-tech Silicon Valley friends, welcome anytime to come over and to be part of it. So there's a couple different things that we talk about in terms of opportunities to get involved, and I'd love to share those with you really briefly. The 3-point mantra, the 3-point don't forget is pray, give, go. Those are standard. But within the go, I want to share that there's some going which is physically going to Taiwan. And some of you might come on business trips to Taiwan, or might come through Taiwan, on your way to Hong Kong or to other places. And if it works out for you, and if we can be in contact, I would love to say, hey, if you could come on a weekend, and if we could do some ministry together somehow, or if you have an opportunity to maybe make your stay in Taiwan a little bit longer, whether it's part of a layover on the trip, or you're here for business and you can stay a little bit longer, there are some things that we can do. Something like, for example, participating in the Coffee Talk outreach on Friday night. Okay, actually facilitating a table. Come in and be part of it with us, or join the table that I'm at on Friday night. We can do some of those things. But there's also like different, we've talked about it and done a tiny bit of it before, but I'd like to do more, which is like putting on workshops, doing different things like that, where we could say to you, hey, we would love for you to come. You have this tech experience. Could you put on a workshop where you talk about how to get involved in that field? And we can talk about what that looks like and then start to do some of that promotion in the future. That's the going that's physically there. I would love to get a team from SVAC to come out, and we can tailor that trip. Maybe it's a 10-day trip where you come out and you can get involved in some different things and help out with the ministry. I mentioned, similar to what Chris and Fiona were doing, there's something called a Give Back program with the Alliance where you can come. This is people that maybe have a little bit more career experience. You'd like to use that experience in a way to kind of give back and participate in ministry. So come for a few weeks or a few months or a few years. It's up to you. We can talk more about that together. But then there's the going that's not actually physically going. And that's one thing I'm excited about too, which is we're actually in the process of training and equipping a few people. I think there's 2 of them in Florida and 1 in Minnesota and one other place that I forgot. But these are people who responded to an email I sent out a couple of months ago and said that they're interested in doing online tutoring. Okay, so this would be an opportunity for you if you had a couple hours a month or a week where you could say, hey, I could be available at this time. And this is my resume or my experience that I've had. I've worked in this industry, or I've had this experience, and I would love to be able to just do one-on-one tutoring, mentoring with someone in Taiwan who wants help in that specific area. Maybe they would like to get a job at your company. And you're not guaranteeing them that they're going to get a job or anything like that, but just wanting to coach and mentor them, help them improve their English or get ready for the interview, different things like that. And you don't have to share your company or anything like that. And I'm sure that you all have specific like NDAs that you sign that you're not allowed to actually share anything about your company. So I'm not asking you to break any laws or do anything weird like that, but just to say, hey, I've got experience in this aspect of tech stuff or in this business, or maybe I've been a mom and I just want to like mentor someone who wants to be a mom. Like those are really cool things, and you'd be surprised at how interested people are in that kind of thing. And so I want to train up a group of people. The dream I have is like 100 people on a website, and you go on this website as a young Taiwanese person, and you see this picture of this person from Silicon Valley Alliance Church, and you click on that picture of them, and it pops up their resume and maybe a short video description. Hey, nice to meet you, and I've been working in the tech industry, and I would love to like help you improve your English so that you can get ready to move to Silicon Valley. And then they click on it and they sign up for 6 tutoring sessions with you, and you build a relationship with them, and then you end up by the last session getting to share the gospel with them and even invite them to come to Aroma Church on Sunday. Or maybe you say, hey, after these 6 sessions, I'm actually going to be in Taiwan in a couple of months, and I'd love to meet up with you and have coffee with you, or to bring you to church with me. I just think it would be so cool for us to provide that kind of opportunity, one-on-one tutoring, and then also provide online classes and other things that we can do through the online format, where we can actually get you involved in participating in the ministry in Taiwan without necessarily having to physically be there the entire time that you're there. So that's some involvement that you could be participating in. That's one. And then I may have misunderstood your question, so I'm going to answer the other way of the question that maybe is what you actually meant, which is how could you promote new things that are happening at Aroma with friends in Taiwan? Yeah, cool. The actual question, Chris. Good job. I still want you guys to be tutors, though. Okay, so that's good. But the second one is to promote. So we've got we call it Education Depot. There's an Instagram, and then we've also got the Aroma Cafe Instagram. So Instagram, and I can pull them up on the websites in the future, or give you links and different things like that. I can write them down. But I think it would be really great if we could, when you make connections with people, if you can connect them into some of the initial events that we're doing. Think of it as concentric circles. On the outside circle is like our music night and our game night and our English outreaches that we do. It's very low commitment. Some of the things they don't even have to sign up for ahead of time. Some of them are free, some of them are paid. And you come to that event, and then we invite you to something else. We invite you to join us on a hike, or we invite you to come to church on Sunday or whatever. And then that's like the next circle in. And so I think it would be really great if we could put together a list of a few of those things that will get them just exposed to what we're doing. And then they can join at their leisure when they feel confident and ready to try it out. So they know about what's going on in Taipei at Aroma, and they have access to know how to get there. And I would love to work with you to think about how could we perhaps offer some kind of an initial, like some kind of a discount, or like a friend introduction kind of a thing, where we could say like, hey, you work at your company, you have somebody in Taiwan who works with you, and could you give them like a special VIP, like first entry free kind of card that we could put together? I think that'd be really cool. And we could say like, hey, if you sign up, and then we know that it came from you, and you introduce them, and maybe it just starts with something as simple as put us into a chat group together, put us into a chat group online or an email together and connect, and then we can say, okay, let's figure out how we can get you there. And I think one of the most powerful things that I've noticed in Taiwan, I come from a Caucasian background, so I don't have a lot of experience, growing up in this. But I think 关系有关系没关系. I think like that kind of 关系thing is so special. And I think if you made the introduction to someone, that would be really powerful. So I'd love to get all that contact information, those kinds of things, and be able to figure out a way that we can get our Silicon Valley friends connected into Aroma. Does that answer your questions?
Yes, perfect.
Cool.
Thanks.
Even the questions you didn't ask. Yes.
Oh, sorry, let's use the mic because
Use
we're
the mic.
streaming.
Oh yeah, we're streaming.
Just an input, for you to think about it.
Yes.
Basketball.
Yes.
Okay, is besides learning English, it's
Yes.
a big thing in
Basketball.
for the-
Jeremy
for
Lin.
young people over there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you saw that like our church have a new basketball court over there.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I think like I just talked to a colleague of mine, who went to Taiwan for short-term mission.
Okay.
With his church, his kids, playing basketball with them for 1 week.
Yeah.
What do you think about
Basketball
that?
camp.
Yeah.
I think that sounds really cool. And so the question is, could we get sports involved? And we've done not as much of that as we should. The Christian Missionary Alliance in Taiwan there's about 33 Christian Missionary Alliance churches across Taiwan, and every year they do an annual sports day, and we participate in the sports day. But it's not evangelistic. It's more kind of fellowship between other churches to get more connected, which is one idea, and that's related. We have done some very basic sports camp stuff, but it's very interesting you mentioned that for two reasons. One is that we have a short-term team coming. It's a few churches that decided to come together to make one team, and they're going to come in November this year. And one guy on the team is obsessed with sports, and he was like, "Can we do anything sports?" So I think that might be confirmation. We got to do some sports. Number two, this summer while my kids are in Minnesota, at Grandpa and Grandma's house where we sleep, they have a basketball hoop right outside. And we don't have that. In Taiwan, we have to walk like 10 minutes, to get to a basketball court at elementary school, something like that. But in the U.S., it's right outside. And I told my wife, I said, I want to bring a basketball hoop back to Taipei. And she said, are you insane? I'm going to say, no. Silicon Valley Alliance Church said I have to, and we're going to nail this to the side of the building, and we're going to start playing basketball right on our block. I don't know if we're actually going to do that. My wife sometimes challenges my ideas, which is probably better that she does. But I think that would be really great. Thank you. That's good feedback. Sports. Anything else? Hey, you were in the picture too, weren't you?
Yes,
Famous.
I am.
Come on.
Hi, how are you? Okay. So you mentioned about you really welcome a lot of volunteers to go to help. Is that a seasonal pattern that which like season or summer or which month will have more people come to the coffee shop that you will need more volunteer? Yeah. There's a couple different approaches I think we could look at. One is when do we have need? And another one is when maybe are our Taiwanese friends more available? Those are two different perspectives to look at, I think. And the seasonality as it goes, from the beginning of our ministry, most things that have happened with people visiting from the U.S. have been during the summer. And most of that was because the people that are coming and serving, they are in school. They're teachers, they're in university, they're even high school students, and so the best time is for when they're not in school for them to come, when they're free. Recently, I've seen that we have more teams wanting to come not during summer and to come maybe for a day or two shorter so they can get that much time off work. Maybe it's hard to get 14 days off work. That's like your whole vacation for the whole year, right? But instead, maybe take 10 days off or 9 days off and then have like a 7 to 8 day trip plus the travel on each side and then come. So that can make it flexible to work throughout the year. When do we have specific need? I noticed this summer we have huge need during the summer. For two reasons. One, I think, is that summer is a lot of transition with our team. So, for example, there's one couple that was there doing an internship, and they left at the end of June. And so now we're short 2 English teachers to be there for our Friday night English outreaches. So if we had people that were able to come they weren't just doing the Friday nights, they were doing a lot of other things. But to imagine like, hey, during the summer, we have some interns that were there in the spring and then they're leaving. And then we also have some people who are in Taiwan more permanently. Maybe they teach English themselves at a different school, and then they want to go home and visit their family in the summer. So now they're not in Taipei. And so now we have less people that are volunteering to help out with our other outreaches that we're doing. So if we could say, hey, there's a group of people that want to come to Asia, come to Taiwan, and to be here for these 3 weeks during the summer, a few of them from SVAC, that would be really great, because then we could set up and say on the schedule, hey, this is a good time, if you need to take a couple weeks off, you want to go visit your family and friends back in the UK or back in the US, somewhere else, and then we've got it covered. We've got these people that are here that are participating with it. So I think that's a good time. We also see
a lot of availability during the summer for students, of course, Taiwanese students. But then there's also a break. They have 6, sometimes more weeks during the Chinese New Year break, which is based on the lunar calendar, so it's a little bit different every year, but January, February, somewhere in there. And during that time is interesting because when I first moved to Taiwan, I feel like Taipei became a total ghost town, and no one is there, and we're the only people in all Taipei, I think. But now recently it's been like Chuxi and Chuyi, like the first Chinese New Year's Eve and the first day, maybe the second day, it's a little bit less busy, but then it starts to get busy again. And people are free and available during those few weeks, before and after the New Year. Sometimes before the New Year is a little bit stressful because they're studying for like an exam or trying to finish all their work before the break. So if they have a company job, they're a little bit more busy. But I would be curious to say, like, hey, could we figure out something around that time? And it might be a time when you're already planning on traveling anyway, if you're having to go, see family in Hong Kong or somewhere else. So I would be curious to do that. Seasonally, we usually have a team come around spring break in March. And then we have teams coming May, June, July, and August. And then sometimes a team or two in the fall, like October or November, around that time, is typically when teams will come. And then individuals or couples, it's really spread out a lot throughout the whole year now. In the past, it was usually during the summer when we'd have interns join, and we'd have people join, and then they would stay for a whole year. We needed them to come in the summer because we needed them to get their jobs teaching English, and that's when the job openings were most available. But now we have different opportunities like volunteer visas that we can do, or sometimes people just come for a couple of months, and a U.S. passport, you get 90 days in Taipei without having to sign up for any visa or anything like that. So there's a lot of opportunity, and I would say if God's put it on your heart, you should just come whenever you're ready.
You mentioned that you had you made some mistakes and had some missed opportunities. Can you share some of them with us?
Oh, you're the best. We only have 15 minutes left, so I don't think I'll be able to share all of them because that would take 15 hours. Opportunities, mistakes. Mistakes or missed opportunities. Yeah. Where do I begin? There's just so many good ones. I think as a general framework, I heard a mentor say this to me a few years ago, and I think it's true. He said, when business people try to get into ministry, they usually do pretty well because they're good at making decisions and moving on those decisions, and they're not as concerned about what people think. When ministry people try to get into business, they usually are terrible. I think I'm kind of on the ministry to business kind of side sometimes. And I've been told by people over the years that I'm not great at business. And I've also been told by people at other times that I'm not great at ministry. And so I think that can weigh on me a little bit, and on the ministry too. So I think one of the things that we've failed to do over the years is to really operate our business with the highest level of excellence. Now, there's been some benefit to that. I think because of our flexibility sometimes on the ministry side, we're able to reach people that we might not be able to reach. But that being said, I think that if we were running the business more effectively, we might be reaching even more people. And so that's one thing that I have tried a lot over the years to improve on and to grow in. But I think that really having a high level of business ability and to make the tough decisions, to make them quickly and effectively, and then to move on from those and not be too weighed down by opinions of people. That's a big one for me. I often tell people that one of my favorite sins is people pleasing, because I don't know about you guys, I just want everybody to like me, and I just think that would be great if everybody did, and not everybody does, and people have opinions, and it's good that people have opinions, and it's okay that people maybe don't like me or like the way that the ministry is run and think there's ways that things could improve. I want to learn from those things, but I think sometimes maybe I overvalue opinions of people and make it too much about what they think of me or think of the ministry rather than hearing from God what he thinks and then moving along in that. I think that our ministry at times has spent too much energy on too much energy on trying to like create space and make people that are serving comfortable. Like when you come on an internship, for example, and we want to like make everything really like easy for you, and inevitably there's things that are not easy, and so it becomes a challenge for them. And then how do they deal with that? But they didn't feel like they were equipped to face those difficulties and to overcome them. So we just had an issue a few months ago, and it was this situation. You know, the people that were involved, they were doing the internship, and it seemed like it was going okay, but they had these struggles that they personally were dealing with, and they didn't really share them openly, and I didn't push in to challenge them to bring those up and then to actually deal with them. So it came that they went to other people and shared those things, and then the problem didn't get resolved, and so the things that I needed to grow in from what they were struggling with, things I needed to change, I didn't get a chance to change those because I didn't know about them. And then they didn't get a chance to grow through those problems. They just ended their internship early. And I feel regretful about that because I didn't challenge them to face those difficulties and to overcome them. And that's for people kind of on the staff or in the team. And I think that when we face the people that, you know, the seekers, the people that aren't Christians yet, that we're trying to reach out to, I think we make a safe, comfortable environment for them. But I think sometimes we fail to really challenge them to make that decision to follow Jesus or not. To still love them when they say, no, I don't want Jesus, but to present that message more clearly and more often. And sometimes I think we're just hoping that they'll become a car because they're in the garage. But does that analogy make sense? My dad used to say that all the time. Just because you're in a garage doesn't make you a car. Just because you're in a church doesn't make you a Christian. And I think that kind of makes sense. A lot of people come and they're part of the community and they feel welcomed and like they belong, but have they been challenged with the message in a way that they have to make a choice? They have to make a choice. Jesus is always, in the Gospels, he's always challenging people to make a choice. You either love him or you hate him, but you're not indifferent because he's made it really clear you can't stay on the fence. You have to you're either for me or you're against me kind of a thing. And I think sometimes in an effort to make people feel more comfortable and welcomed, we fail to directly challenge and invite people to make that decision that they need to make. There's a lot more that I could do, but I think those are 3 good ones to get going on for now. Business acumen, team development, and challenging in the gospel. Thank you. Scary question. Any other scary questions? It's about 5 o'clock now, isn't it? I'm amazed at how long you have all lasted. This is incredible.
I'd like to ask a question. Does the Taiwanese government impose any restrictions on how you run the ministry?
No,
Since you started as a cafe, so there's no restriction what you do in the cafe.
So Taiwanese government is different from maybe other governments where there might be some religious restrictions. In Taiwan, there are no religious restrictions. In fact, you can even get a religious visa or a missionary visa if you want to Taiwan. So it's quite open to the gospel. But in terms of our ministry, our organization, we've developed kind of 3 different entities. The business is an LLC registered with Taiwanese government. It's registered under my name, but I have a separate agreement with the Christian Missionary Alliance in the U.S. that it actually belongs to the U.S. Christian Missionary Alliance. So if I left tomorrow, I'm not leaving, but if I left, then I would turn that over to whoever they put in charge next. That's a separate entity with a separate bank account and a separate tax reporting system to the Taiwanese government. Then we have the church. And the church is registered under the Taiwanese Alliance Church Union, which is those other 30-something churches that I mentioned previously. So they're registered with the Taiwanese government as a non-profit organization. And we do our tax reporting under them. We have a separate bank account and a separate organizational structure for that. So if you came to Aroma and bought a cup of coffee, that would register with Taiwanese government under the business, the LLC. If you came to church and gave a financial donation, like if you gave a tithe or offering on Sunday, that would be a separate bank account, and you would get a tax-deductible receipt for the Taiwanese government tax system under that separate entity. So they're separated. Everything is separated out, and then the teams and interns that we run with Envision with our structure is a separate bank account as well. So we keep all the finances kind of separately to make sure that it's all run well, and we try to keep the books very clear for everything. So if there's ever any exchange, for example, the church buys some coffee and muffins from the coffee shop, then that's noted on the books and the transfer is made very clear that way. So we try to keep everything separate for the finances wise. But in terms of religious restrictions, as a business LLC, if I want to share the gospel, I can. As a church, if I want to share the gospel, I can. I can do any of that on the streets openly or in my organization, in my building, anything like that. It's totally open.
Another question, just for fun.
Oh, fun.
Could you rate your Mandarin speaking ability?
Rate my own Mandarin speaking ability?
Because I think you speak very well, so I'm just curious.
Well, a few years ago, I took a test, and I have a 4th grade vocabulary. So I think that is one rating that you could take subjectively. Oh, really? There's the International Standard Chinese TOEFL, I think it's called. The TOEFL is the English version, but then the Chinese version of that same test. There's 6 levels, and I got 4 out of 6 on that one. Yeah, so it's upper intermediate. Yeah,
that's very good.
Yeah, thank you. Biha. Yeah. I can speak like. When I first moved to Taiwan, we taught English in separate bushibans to pay our bills and stuff, and I remember the boss. She was a very fun and intense person, and so after 2 years of working with her, she took me aside and she said, "I want you to know a few Taiwanese zhanghua, like a few curse words in Taiwanese, because I want you to know when I'm mad at you, I want you to know that I'm mad, and these are the words I'm going to use when I yell at you." So she taught me a few of those. I will not repeat them here, but she taught me a few Taiwanese words so that I would know when she's angry. And she did use those words against me, so I knew when she was angry. That was very helpful. Yeah. So.
Is there like anything we can pray for your family?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Transitioning back or like in the future?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great one. Pray for my family. Yeah. So we have 4 boys, and actually there's prayer cards in the back. I would love if you just took all of those tonight. And they've got the whole family with the 4 boys on there. The 5th boy, me, that the wife has to take care of. All 5 of us boys and her. In our own way, all of us are happy to be in the States and to see grandpas and grandmas, everything, but also missing Taiwan. And I'm satisfied with that state, but also a bit sad about it because a couple of weeks ago, our number 3 boy, Judah, he's crying and he says, "Go mommy's house, Taipei." He wants to go back to mommy's house in Taipei. And he wants to be, maybe it's because his toys or whatever, but he says, I want to go back to mommy's house in Taipei. And my oldest boy, Enoch, the other day, he said, "Oh man, I'm missing Taiwan." And I said, "What are you missing?" And he said, "The food." So I said, okay, good. As everybody has their own struggle. When you move to a new country, many of you have felt that experience before. Sometimes you really love being there and every part about it, and sometimes you really hate being there and every part about it. But I'm thankful that, in general, my family is pretty happy to be in Taiwan. We have friends there and other parts of our life that we really appreciate and are thankful for. And I'm just missing. I'm just missing like my friends back in Taiwan and a lot of aspects of the ministry that I'm stuck here, and I get the news from them. They're like, "Oh, we're facing this new problem," and I'm like, "Dang it! I just wish I was there with you guys to like face this together." So I think if you could pray for our hearts to have peace for the next 2 months about that we're here, that'll be really good. And pray for our family to really enjoy the time while we're here. is this the live stream? Is it going like to YouTube, or is it just to like? Okay. There's personal family stuff. I won't share too much in detail, maybe if we're offline or something like that. But in my family, like with my parents and my brother and sister and stuff, I'd love for you to pray for them as well. It's always weird that we're back here in Ganghao. It's like we're back here and we get to be with them, but it's also like they're going through challenging times. And so how do we help encourage them and bless our family members, but then also as our own family with my wife and my kids to stay strong together and to stay focused on loving each other well as a family. Yeah, I think that would be good. Cool. Microphone.
Okay. Well, I believe you've been in Taiwan so long now. You established a base over there, and you know the environment, your community, the surrounding there, and the target that you are capable to reach. Have you think about what is their need, and then you can plan some program, and then maybe you think that you need some extra help or whatever. You can think of the resources here in the in U.S. You can send out the request and asking for people of that kind of ability that can come over in whatever period of time that you can develop that program or expand that program. So I don't know whether give you some kind of idea. In fact, because for us here, we didn't know the need or how to outreach them. But you've been there for a number of years, so you know the surrounding targets or whatever and their need. So if you think that you have shortage of those resources, then you can write to the church that support you or the Alliance Church, see whether they can within whatever time period to go over there and as a short-term mission program or something like that.
That's great. I totally agree. Yeah, agree. That sounds good. I'll be calling you. 会打给你哦，小心。Yeah. That's really, I appreciate that. I think it's good to have just even mentioning that to say, hey, we in some ways maybe say, like, we got your back, we want to support and see how we can be involved and partner with you, and that there are specific resources. And sometimes you don't know how you can help because you're not hearing about what are the specific needs and how you can partner in that. So I think that's really good. Thank you. Yeah. Good.
So you have any newsletter?
Yes. We do have newsletter.
Monthly or?
Momoshin, can we please? I can pull up a QR code that we can scan. I didn't put it. If you give me 30 seconds at the end, I will put it up onto this slideshow, and then I think we can just scan to it. We'll just jump to it. So I can put on that. And then on the QR code, there will be a link to sign up for the newsletter. That will be really great. And that newsletter will, when you first sign up, you should get some onboarding emails in the first week just to tell you a little bit, smell, become, spread the aroma about what we're doing, which you already know now. And then usually about once or sometimes twice a month, I send out some kind of newsletter update about what's going on.
Thank you.
It would be great to have you all on it. Thank you. That's the best. Any other questions? It's 5 o'clock. Get out of here. That's like, this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. That was perfect timing. That was amazing. That was so good. Love it. Let's make sure this is the right QR code.
I took the picture of the QR code that you were showing earlier, and I can see the newsletter sign-up site.
Oh, so really?
I think I can send it to the other church members through like Lines or WhatsApp.
Okay, here, if I can. Does this thing work now? Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, there it is. Is that big enough? Okay, if you scan on that, it should say "Get our newsletter" as the first link, and then you can sign up that way. Yeah. There's also Go on a Trip, Give Now, Aroma's website for more information. Perfect. You guys will be ahead for tomorrow morning when I ask everyone to join, and then I offer you a free copy of my book. %50 of the time when I put these on, they stop working. I don't know. It's always after they saved it to Pro Presenter or something like that. Nerd alert. That's me too. Oh, thank you guys so much for this time together. Stay out of your way. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
All right, once again, thank you for coming to share with us. If you guys are interested in knowing how good his Mandarin is, he's going to be preaching in Mandarin in the Mandarin service tomorrow, right? Yep. That is the 9:30 service, right? And also, but you guys curious to hear him speak in English? It's going to be at the Cantonese service, translated to Cantonese at the 11:15 service. You know any Cantonese or no? Yeah. But yeah, before we go today, maybe we can spend some time just praying, like 5 minutes or so, like couple with a few other people. Yeah. So once again, thank you. Yeah.